Now, as we get more viewers around the country, we get more questions. A whole lot of questions, as a matter of fact. We're going to try to answer a few of those today, and we're going to show you our timeline. Now, I lost the use of my right arm as a young man. I was serving in the Marine Corps at the time in a motorcycle accident, and I had to adjust to figure out how to do the things I loved, one of them being fishing and hunting. Now, over the years, with the help of a few friends, one of them named Bill Mitchell, he brought in a magazine of a man shooting a bow with his teeth. This was amazing to me. So I went and I got a piece of leather and I put it on my bowstring. Before long, I was shooting a bow. Shortly thereafter, I started entering competitions and winning around the country, shooting for the IBO. I started in Fish and Wildlife as a fisheries fella. Loved my job, absolutely loved my job. We would go out and we would manage state-owned lakes, shock farm ponds, help people with technical guidance with their personal ponds and lakes. After a few years, I started shooting some video and started doing some hunting and fishing things on the side. Next thing you know, I was talking to the Outdoor Channel. At that same time, the former host of Kentucky Afield, Dave Shuffett, decided to move on to greener pastures. At that point, I became host of Kentucky Afield in 1995, the oldest outdoor television show in the nation. As host of that show, we hunted, we fished. I thought about hunting and fishing maybe a little bit differently than a lot of people in hunting and fishing shows today. It wasn't about the trophy. It wasn't so much about the size of the rack or the size of the fish. A lot of it was to bring fresh, organic meat to the table. When we did a deer hunting segment, it was most important to me to come back and say, okay, here's how to completely clean a deer efficiently, not wasting any meat. We did a deer processing video with my old buddy Sim Harp, and we showed how to take each part of that deer and make it the best we possibly could. Then through the years, I started meeting people who loved to cook. One of them was a professional chef. He was a French chef. His name was Raoul Dupree. He was from Lyon, France, and he came here to visit his daughter, who was my neighbor. We struck up a conversation as best we could with my limited French and his limited English. One day he asked me if he could have a trout that he saw me bringing in, and he made this fantastic recipe. I said something to his daughter, does he cook like this all the time? And then she told me, he was too humble to say it, that he was a famous chef and made fantastic stuff. So we started hanging around. He started showing me recipes and sauces. It was fantastic. It was such a wonderful education. He took me under his wing. He showed me how to do things. He showed me how to make sauces that accentuate flavors from various game recipes. So I started cooking on television in 1995. That was a long time ago. 10 years ago, I started thinking about stepping outside of just the hunting and fishing world and doing a cooking show. Not just cooking, but farming, gardening, stepping outside the kitchen and showing what it takes to bring food in, whether it be hunting or fishing, gardening, and having folks on to do things the old-fashioned way. Started thinking about a theme song about 10 years ago. So I was mowing, and it just popped into my head. You are what you eat, so I don't eat chicken feet. I wanted the theme song to be kind of cartoonish, kind of fun, but to show what we do on the show, our mission statement per se. So it began. It was just me. So we started having folks on like Bobby Joe and Lois. Then we started having Miss Helen on with her fried apple pies. And then we would do things in our own kitchen, such as canning. We'd bring in stuff from the garden. And I asked Nikki what she thought about starting a show. I would gradually try to get her to come on the show. Back in those early days, it was just me standing up there doing stuff and having guests. And I would try to get her to come on. And one of her early responses was, as long as you do all the talking. I said, well, Nikki, you got to talk too. And she was very shy, very reserved. So I would have her on occasionally. 2015, Nikki has a bad car accident, breaks her neck. She's home for 12 weeks. I have to take off work for a long period of time to take care of her. During that period of time, we started thinking, maybe we should both be home. I had almost 30 years in. I said, well, why don't you come on and start doing the show with me full time? She said, well, I'll think about it. Fast forward a couple years, she retires from her job. And in 2018, she becomes officially the co-host of Tim Farmer's Country Kitchen. So when we first started, we did a lot of stuff outside on the patio. Then we had our old kitchen. Then we started cooking in the cabin. A lot of people say, man, we wish you'd go back in the cabin every now and then. So today, we're gonna actually go back to the cabin and we're gonna interview Mrs. Farmer and Kelli about the early days of the show and how fun it was to get this whole thing started. So let's take a trip back to Nostalgia Land and go to the cabin. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yes, it
since
has.
we've been up here. One of the reasons I remember now why we don't do as many shows up here in the summertime is
It's so hot.
there's no air conditioning, just like the old days.
That's right.
But you know what? As time has flown by, I look back on this 10 years ago. We started thinking about this whole. What did you think about me even doing something like this, a cooking show?
I figured it would go good because when you cooked on Kentucky Afield, people loved it. So I thought that would be great. I liked your idea because I was still working. I'm like, go for it. Yay.
Now, way early, I would try to get Nikki to come on a show. And she says, no, I don't do this. I don't do this TV thing for. I said, Nikki, this is our kitchen. It's not, it's not a television show per se. It's just us cooking. But what did you say?
Yes, but you would sneak me and you would act like you needed somebody to cut stuff or whatever. Just come cut this up for me.
She'd say, please do all the talking. I'm
Yes,
saying,
as long as I didn't talk.
I can't do all the talking.
That's right. I'm not a talker.
But before long, because Kelli's behind the camera and because we're in our setting in our kitchen, you kind of forget the cameras, you kind of forget that it's a TV show. And then now that we go out and we meet people who are from the show,
Right.
you kind of know who we're talking to out there.
And plus, I'm hungry. I'm starving. So
And she's
I want to
starving.
eat. So I'm good to cook.
So some of the questions that have been on the show is why wasn't anybody included in the title song, which I wrote almost to the day 10 years ago and recorded in our studio. At that time, there was no Nikki, and there wasn't even Kelli at that time. We had another producer who started out for a very short time, and Kelli came back to Kentucky, and she stepped right in and did a fantastic job. Don't tell her I said.
I won't tell her.
So when I wrote the song, it was just Tim Farmer's Country Kitchen. Now, if I had to go back, and maybe someday I will redo the song.
I like the song.
You like it like it
I
is?
like it like it is.
I think we'll change it someday, though. So anyhow, it turned out to be this family thing. So looking back, are you glad we did it?
Yeah, I am. This is fun. I'm enjoying myself.
Now, we got to bring Kelli up here because she's been a huge part of this.
Yes, she has.
So 10 years ago, she moved from Virginia back to here. She came in, looked around. She had her education in this field. Since she was a little kid, she was interested in behind the camera, the editing process.
She did some videos of you.
And she's really good at it, but don't tell anybody. But let's get Kelli on here to talk about the early days of Tim Farmer's Country Kitchen. Here's Kelli. She's behind the camera. She works really hard to make a good show. What were your thoughts when I said, you're thinking, okay, he's doing a cooking show? He's got the music ready? Did you think that would be a cool job?
Yeah, because that's all I watched was cooking shows, so I was excited.
Now, I gotta say, she's a great cook in her own right. She does amazing. So seriously, she has us over every now and then, and for somebody's birthday or something, she cooks these huge meals. They're absolutely extraordinary.
Well, I learned from the best.
It's genetic. So we look back and you think about the early days. Think about some of the early shows that you did. What are some of your favorite things that you've done over the years?
The hog killing, that was so interesting. I had never even seen that process. So like we spent like that whole day doing it.
Yeah.
And that was just cool to see all behind the scenes, some of the stuff I didn't want to see. But it was still really cool. I was like, I'd never experienced that because we were more city kids.
Yeah.
growing up.
And you think about this, the old timers said they use everything except for the squill.
They did.
Everything was used. So did you find that did you get queasy or did
I
you?
didn't eat anything that day. I will eat pork to this day. I still love pork. It was cool to see, but during it, I couldn't eat it.
All right, go back. What are some other things you've worked on that you've enjoyed? Or people maybe that we've had on or things that we've done?
Obviously, your venison roast is my favorite recipe to this day. I make it for everybody.
The one I did with the mustard.
Yes, the mustard, and oh, it was so good.
That was a happy mistake. That was just stuff I
So
mixed
good.
together.
I
That's your
think I made
favorite
it
thing?
last night. Yeah.
No
It's my
kidding.
favorite one. But I loved the chicken feet. It was so interesting to me.
Yeah.
I like all the weird ones. And then the cowhead tacos, like those were just, stuff that you wouldn't just
I
make.
ate an eyeball
You did.
and I ate
I did
brains.
not.
Now when the eyeball popped in my mouth, I was like, okay,
Nope.
that's different.
No thanks.
That still was pretty tasty.
But even cow tongue, we did that. That was actually delicious. I thought that was good. But
Smoked.
I like all the weird stuff, I guess.
So 10 years. Can you believe 10 years has flown by? You were in Busch Gardens doing stuff for them. You came up here. Did you think it would work? What were your thoughts?
I never thought it wouldn't. I just didn't know, like, I didn't know what to expect because I'd never worked for a TV show. Like, I had done videos for them for, like, their online and stuff, but never, I was excited. It was fun. I've learned, I feel like looking at our old stuff to now, how much we've just learned from filming is cool.
Now, let me tell you something about her. It took me years and years and years to gain the title executive producer. I don't know if anybody as young as her has ever been co-executive producer of a television show. And you know what? She earned it almost immediately. She came up with these ideas, she came up with this, she came up with that. She learned the system that I had used over the years and added to that. She's a perfectionist, I give her that. So what are some things you'd like to do in the next 10 years?
Cook.
You want to cook on the show?
Oh, no, not me.
Today?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
I'm talking about for the show, what would you like to do? We'd love it. Kelly needs to cook
No,
on the show,
no.
Nikki. What do you think?
No. I do like traveling. I think it's fun to see other places and go other places, but I just love eating all your food. That's my favorite part of working the show.
So, this is Kelly. I would clap for her if I could.
I got you.
Great job.
Thank you.
Wonderful job.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to the future. Now let's get Nikki back in it. Do you want us to cook you something for lunch?
Please, I'm starving.
How about some catfish?
Sounds good?
Let's do it.
Okay.